Cavities form not from foods, not from sugars per se, but from Streptococcus mutans and other bacteria that eat those sugars. They create the acid that burrows down to degrade the tooth in that very focal area. Strep mutans is a communicable and very clever bacteria. It likes sugars in the form of complex carbohydrates. So even if you are on a zero carbohydrate, zero sugar diet, there's some evidence that strep mutans will figure out ways to feed on other components of food in order to create this acid to create cavities in your teeth. The key is to try and reduce the amount of strep mutans and reduce the amount of acid in the mouth. Welcome back to the Pod Digest. In this video, we summarize the podcast episode from Huberman Lab by Andrew Huberman titled How to Improve Oral Health and Its Critical Role in Brain and Body Health. Oral health, including the oral microbiome, the health of your palate, the entire oral cavity are an extremely important component of general bodily health. Our teeth have an outer layer, which is the enamel. The enamel, believe it or not, is not white, it is translucent. Beneath the enamel is a structure called dentin. Cavities form are holes that bacteria burrow down through the enamel, and if you're unlucky, make it down to the dentin. But you can repair cavities that have started to form. In particular, your mouth environment is always in a state of what's called either demineralization or remineralization, depending how acidic it is or how basic it is. It's not both at the same time, it's one or the other, and dependent on the pH level. Remineralization is good. It is the process of putting minerals back into the enamel and to fill back in the cavities that bacteria have started to form, especially when those cavities have burrowed down into the enamel but have not yet made it into the dentin layer of the tooth. Now, if there's a demineralization down to the deeper dentin layers of the tooth, then most often you're going to need it to be drilled, filled, and billed by the dentist. The oral cavity is amazing by virtue of how vulnerable it is, but also how it stays robust is by keeping the saliva healthy. Saliva is this incredible stuff that's supporting remineralization of the teeth. Our goal is to try and keep our teeth in a state of remineralization. So acidity is bad for the mouth. The acidity of the mouth is largely dependent on how much saliva you're producing and the mineral content of that saliva. In terms of chemistry, the remineralization bonds form through the addition of specific minerals at specific angles. The naturally occurring mineral that's responsible for the majority of these bonds in the enamel and teeth is called hydroxyapatite. Acid can actually break those bonds, which is the demineralization process, hence the critical need to keep your mouth as alkaline as possible. Let's now see why fluoride is in drinking water and fluoride is in toothpaste. There's some data, not a lot, but some data that fluoride might not be so great for our oral microbiome. There is a polarized debate about fluoride because some people believe that fluoride can disrupt thyroid health, might be disruptive for brain health. If fluoride levels are too high in drinking water or any substance, it can be very dangerous, like a poison. Fluoride itself may not be poisonous at very low levels. Now, fluoride is a substance that is not a vitamin, not a mineral, not an essential nutrient, but in the last century, it was discovered it can actually replace some of the hydroxyapatite bonds in teeth and actually make those bonds physiologically strong. Our mouth shifts from remineralization to demineralization mode when it is dry. On that note, we should avoid alcohol, stimulants, smoking, vaping, sugar, mouth breathing, acidic foods, acidic drinks, and cannabis. Cannabis does have certain medical uses that are very interesting, and there's good evidence for those. But for many people, cannabis is not a good idea. Alcohol alters the pH of the saliva and kills off a bunch of things that you want, like the cells in and around the mucosal layer of the mouth that provide immune support. If you're drinking alcohol, pay extra attention to your oral health. Coffee and tea also dry out the mouth, hence increase acidity of mouth. If you're exercising intensely, we often breathe through mouth. So not saying don't ever breathe through your mouth, but to try and keep the oral cavity moist and closed as much as possible. It's not also about completely avoiding acid foods or sugary foods or acidic drinks. It's about limiting the amount of time that the overall environment of the mouth is acidic. For this, try to rinse your mouth after your meals. You can also brush, floss, or do a saltwater rinse. The mouth makes the maximum amount of saliva with the optimal pH during the daytime and through the middle of the day. If you have to eat or drink during the middle of the day, always rinse the acid away from your mouth. The most critical time of day or night to brush your teeth is at nighttime, because at night you're producing far less saliva. And if there's any food product there that the bacteria can feed on, the saliva isn't there to combat. Your saliva tries to save everything the strep mutans bacteria is trying to destroy. Also, Make sure you're using a soft toothbrush for brushing. For electric toothbrush, use it very lightly on the gums. As there is blood flow to the gums, it does encourage a lot of circulation to some of the deeper portions of the tooth. Oil pulling is another beneficial practice for oral hygiene. It is ideal to be diligent about removing the biofilm and plaque with brushing before it hardens to tartar. In that case, the dentists do need to scrape it away and do tooth polishing, which makes your teeth smooth so bacteria can't adhere to it. Another protocol is the use of an artificial sugar called xylitol. Xylitol can actually inhibit the growth of Streptococcus mutans. When the bacteria eats xylitol, it cannot produce the acid. This makes it a very potent tool for improving oral health. There are xylitol products in the form of gums or mints, specifically to be used after meals. As with everything, dosage matters. You can start off slowly with one after a meal. People who use mouthwashes to freshen their breath and to kill off additional bacteria can try to find one that is not alcohol-based and not a strong antiseptic, or that if it is an antiseptic, that is not alcohol-based. Mouthwash with alcohol disrupts the healthy components of the oral microbiome. Alcohol-based mouthwashes are also known to reduce the amount of nitric oxide that's produced in the oral cavity. Nitric oxide promotes vasodilation within the blood vessels that line and feed the oral cavity, throat, nose, brain, and heart. Keeping nitric oxide levels stable is the state that we want to seek. One thing that we haven't talked very much about is the tongue. A number of unhealthy bacteria can build up on the tongue throughout the day. Scraping or brushing the tongue can be advantageous for removing that bacteria. Lightly brushing the tongue may in fact be better than scraping because few people know how to use them with sufficient force to remove the bacteria. Overall, we need to take a look at what we are currently doing for our tooth and oral health and consider what modifications are best for us. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Your help goes a long way for us.